Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the event. We'll begin in just one moment, please.
Thank you. You may be seated for the reflection. Our spiritual reflection today will center on two very theological words, but words which are also near and dear to our veterans. Those words are family and home. In my faith tradition, the word family is significant because it represents those who are united by and around a sacrifice. We also hold to a mission and common values which determine how we act, live, and work together. And we depend on each other, brothers and sisters, to help each other along through life toward success on our mission. We encourage one another, inspire one another, challenge, and teach one another. Of course, we even fight like brothers and sisters from time to time. But at the end of the day, we love one another. We're a close-knit family. And the military is the same way, a group of people united together around the willingness to sacrifice everything for lofty ideals and the completion of a mission. You push each other to be better and do better. You encourage and challenge and teach one another. And yes, sometimes you fight like brothers and sisters too, because you've grown together as a family. And families need homes. In my faith, home is the place where you are accepted as you are, while also receiving the space and encouragement to discover who you are becoming. Home is the place where you find the support you need to help you be your best. It's the place where you fight and play and laugh and cry, and you live life together. But home is always the place where your family is. For many of our student veterans, exiting the military or active duty is like leaving their family. And this disconnect can rob them of these great benefits provided by family. But the opening of the MARC, this Military Resource Center, it represents IUP's dedication to providing a home for student veterans to reconnect with their military family again. It represents a strong voice of support for our veterans that is saying, we don't want you to just come and get through IUP. We want you to find the support and encouragement and community that will help you to thrive as you pursue your education here. We want you to find a home and be a part of a family here on this campus. And therefore, my hope and prayer today is that this space becomes for you what it was created to be, a home. That you will reconnect with people who are like-minded, and you will find acceptance, support, encouragement, friendship, and family. And that as a result of this home and family, you will experience great success here at IUP and far beyond, because each one of you absolutely deserves it. Family and home here at IUP, this is my prayer for you today. Amen and amen.
Good morning. I thank Mr. Mosley and Reverend Weigner for lending their talent and also spiritual touch to this very important ceremony. Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a moment of silence, supporting the victims of the recent and tragic shooting down at Fort Hood. Thank you. I'm Captain Dave Sobolski, and I've served as the interim director of the Military Resource Center. I gladly welcome you here today to our open house. This is a great day for IUP, and more so, it's also a wonderful opportunity for those who have served our country and their families, who also, by extension, serve our country when their fathers and mothers, husbands and wives, sons and daughters are deployed for months at a time. Many people have been instrumental in making sure IUP can accommodate the unique needs of the military, our veterans, and their families. And today I want to acknowledge some of them who have joined us before we hear from our other speakers. Tim Snyder was the first to inspire IUP to do better for our veteran students. Father Willie Lechner, formerly from St. Maur University Parish, who was Tim's mentor and champion as they described the experiences our student veterans have experienced and had to go through here at IUP in the 2000s. Congressman Bill Schuster is currently today represented by Ron Noco. If you could please stand, Ron. Thank you. Indiana County Commissioner Rodney Ruddick. Mayor of Indiana Borough, George Hood. And the District Attorney, Patrick Doherty. Of course, having the backing of IUP's Council of Trustees is helpful in any venture. And fortunately, we have a great group leading our university. They've been extremely, extremely supportive throughout this entire process. Today, Aaron Douthit, the student member of the Council of Trustees, represents them. Please welcome Aaron Douthit.
Thank you, David. It's my honor and pleasure to represent the IUP Council of Trustees, and on their behalf, congratulate everyone involved with this center's establishment. As you might guess, because the trustees only meet 4 times per year, we don't always get the opportunity to pay attention to the finer details of what's going on campus. But that's not the case with the Military Resource Center. To a member, the Council of Trustees has been tuned into the discussion of how best to serve our U.S. military personnel and families. Personally, I've seen firsthand how some of my fellow nursing students who are associated with the military have to navigate complex system, particularly whenever securing their finances to support their continued enrollment. As students, their first priority should be their academic work, and believe me, that's stressful enough. But then they have to spend time and time again to navigate the complex system and secure their finances, Making that alone, As students, their first priority should be their academic work, and believe me, that's stressful enough. But then they have to work through lengths and lengths of red tape to make sure that making that alone a less stressful process is the least we can do to serve. So personally, I can say that as a trustee, I'm proud the center has opened on my watch. Before we move to our next speaker, I'd like to say thanks and ask that all veterans, active military personnel, and reservists stand to be recognized. Thank you for all you've done and continue to do for us. As you might imagine, I've now attended quite a few meetings with President Driscoll. I know he has a great deal to say, including that he is very pleased about this center's opening. Please welcome President Michael Driscoll.
In his second inaugural speech, President Lincoln referred to the soldiers who were returning to home from the Civil War in this way: "Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves." Historically, this nation has treated its veterans and active service members inconsistently. Lincoln's reference may have reached back to the Revolutionary War, when the Continental Army was demobilized without pay. Fast forward to a few years following World War I, when veterans were promised $1.25 for each day served overseas, but Congress voted to withhold that compensation until 1945. And in the present, our vets experience the challenges created by an overburdened Veterans Affairs system that is less than tame to navigate and perhaps not as equipped as it needs to be to oblige so many. All of us here at IUP can easily agree that it is most appropriate to provide support for our veterans, those on active duty, our reservists, and their families. I am honored and proud to say that we are committed to providing the constant attention it requires. Our Military Resource Center also is symbolic in that it reaffirms our support to the men and women who purchase our freedom, not just on this day, but every day going forward. Perhaps what we are doing, this one small step, resonates with our values of knowing students by name and responding to their needs. I'd say it's also indicative of what we here in Indiana County stand for: the tight-knit community that cares for its own, for its family. I thank all of you who have made this new resource center possible. It brings IUP one step closer to reaching its vision of being a place that provides a very personal experience and helps students make lifelong connections. More important, I thank all who have served. Thank you for your service. I could not be more pleased to introduce a surprise speaker. Stephen Abel is a wonderful and generous friend to IUP. He graduated in 1973 and had a distinguished Army career. Upon his retirement, Colonel Abel embarked on a second distinguished career in Veterans Affairs, first with the state of New Jersey and now with Rutgers University, where he oversees an award-winning resource center. We've appreciated and benefited from his guidance in planning our own resource center. And tomorrow, we will induct him into the ROTC Hall of Fame. Please welcome Colonel Abel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How y'all doing?
Cool.
President Driscoll, thank you for those kind remarks. So I'm going to take you back 45 years. Just a little over 45 years ago, I had to make a decision where I was going to go to school. And I had narrowed the decision down to two schools, Penn State and IUP. 45 years ago, the country was torn because of that war, the Vietnam War. And so the disruption that was happening across the country was happening on college campuses as well. And my decision to come to IUP was a decision to not be part of that disruption, but rather to go to a place where I could grow and learn in a relatively calm environment. From 1969 until 1973, when I graduated, I probably wore my military uniform on a weekly basis here on this campus. And not once in those 4 years did I feel that eyes were being turned on me with distrust or dislike or disrespect. And it makes me proud today to see that nothing has changed. That IUP continues to support its military and its veterans in a top-notch manner. And so to the entire IUP team, congratulations on a job extremely well done. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Desmond Mullins students know him as a sociologist who works in IUP's Mid-Atlantic Addiction Research Training Institute. His family and friends know him as a U.S. military veteran. I am pleased to relinquish the podium to him. Please welcome Dr. Desmond Mullins.
So first, I would like to thank Dr. Alex Heckert, Dr. Christian Vaccaro, and Dr. Rhonda Lucky for having me stand in front of you all today, teaching here at IUP, and also being a part of the Military Resource Center, the creation of the Military Resource Center. I don't want to be before you very long, but I have a few remarks to say about that are inspired by my phenomenological experiences as a veteran who reintegrated, who is still reintegrating, as more aptly thought of as a process rather than a singular event. So therefore it's a process that I'm still enduring. But also as a researcher of veterans reintegration, as I'm a participant in the Veterans Reintegration Research Cluster here at IUP. So the first thing that I have to say about it, where I'm not going to take you back 45 years, right? That would be when I was a protein in some apple or something like that, right? But I could take you back about 10 years, and this is when I began my tour of duty in Iraq with the 1st Cavalry as a cavalry scout. The year, certainly at that time of the war in Iraq, was a difficult time. 14 months I spent over there with many men who became basically brothers of mine. Upon returning home in October 2005, I immediately jumped into school. Now I'm a Brooklyn native, so I returned back to New York City. And I went to the City University of New York at the first opportunity that I got, and that's January of 2006. I spent several months sitting in the back of classes wearing sunglasses and a hood, not disclosing to anyone my veteran status or the details of the prior life that I had lived just months before. I felt very confused at times and out of place. I didn't connect well with people who were my own age or younger, other students, or not even really professors. If it had not been for the goodwill and care of two professors, I certainly would not have completed undergrad. I certainly would not have completed graduate school. I certainly would not be standing in front of you right now for these purposes. And so it is certainly my duty to support veterans, returning veterans, in an academic setting in much the way that I was supported by academics back when universities across the country were not really aware of the burden that veterans were facing when they were returning to school and trying to reintegrate into society simultaneously. So it's very interesting that now we think of higher education institutions think of veterans as a demographic, and I like to use that word, as a demographic that is due special attention and particular care and service. And I want to talk to you about this word demographic a little bit. And that is often when we use this word, we think of it as isolating certain characteristics that express commonalities between individuals, right? So we think of demographics as racial demographics in terms of gender, right? In terms of sexual orientation, and here in terms of veterans, right? But in fact, it's quite mistaken that we think of them demographics as isolating commonalities, right? And that is because even within the confines of those commonalities, there is great diversity, right? And so within the veterans community, there's incredible diversity. This is probably the most diverse demographic that you're going to find in terms of gender, in terms of race, in terms of SES, in terms of sexual orientation. And I hope that the Military Resource Center that we are constructing here and that we are inaugurating today is going to be a safe place in this university to kind of foster and nurture the diversity within that specific demographic of veterans here on campus. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a research project that I've been developing for the past 2 years. And this has to do with alternatives to pain management, alternatives to pharmaceutical interventions for pain management in the veterans community. So for the past, I would say, 5 years, I've been mountaineering with the Sierra Club and an organization called Veteran Expeditions, where we get contingents of veterans together to go and climb mountains and mountaineer. It's so much fun. I'd have to say that most of my dreams at night are filled with different experiences on these expeditions, right? And something that is incredible to me about the formation of these small mountaineering contingents is the amount of diversity within these groups, and that's experiential diversity in terms of, even in the military, diversity in terms of gender, race, sexual orientation, and what have you, right? But also how the incredible power that you feel when you're in a collective of veterans who are incredibly different from one another, but are focused on a common goal. So it's like in these small mountaineering groups that we create all of the positive aspects of the military without any of the negatives, right? And so I hope that the MRC is yet another place that is capable of fostering that type of cooperation across the very diverse demographic of veterans. Now, I'm going to leave you with a bit of a metaphor. My dear colleague and friend, Dr. Christian Vaccaro, he text messaged me 2 days ago, and he was like, "Hey, man, you should leave them with a mountaineering metaphor, right? About climbing a mountain, you know. And I was like, well, you know, that's a good idea. Christian's always thinking on his feet. He's really fast, and he's always like 10 steps ahead of me, which is difficult. But when I gave it some thought about using a mountaineering metaphor to describe the development and usefulness of the Military Resource Center and also Veterans Reintegration, I realized that actually joining the military, serving in combat, and reintegrating to society is actually nothing like climbing a mountain. And there are many reasons, but the least of which is not that when you undertake the mission to climb a mountain, that journey has a definitive beginning and it has a definitive ending. When you undertake service, military service, it has no definitive beginning, although you think that your enlistment or commission as an officer is the beginning of it. Actually, your whole life was leading up to that moment. Now, and then reintegrating as a veteran, well, there is certainly no definitive end to that, right? My grandfather and my father are also both combat veterans of the 1st Cav, and they're still reintegrating. And in fact, my grandfather, I believe that he is the least integrated of all of us, right? But there is a metaphor that mountaineering has given me that I do believe applies to veteran reintegration. And that is this. At the top of every summit, there is a view. And that view, when you behold it, it is of the world. But you realize, the more you look at it, that it is actually of you. It is a reflection of you. And you realize also that you are inextricably tied to the world, and the world is inextricably tied to you. And so therefore, looking at a reflection of yourself at the summit of a mountain, when you're facing the world, you acknowledge, just as in combat, the ephemerality of your existence and the folly of your daily concerns. And it is your opportunity and is your duty to take this moment to do the hard work of introspection, to find the parts in you and the parts in the world with all of its beauty and all of its horror, all of its enchantment and all of its terror, to find the parts of you and the world that are worth salvaging, worth cultivating. And all of these veterans that are going to use this Military Resource Center, that are going to enroll in IUP, they're going to be doing this hard work of introspection. And it is not our job to tell them who they should be or what they should do. It is our job to just make this a safe space so that they can do that difficult work and find those things out for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. I'd like to speak for the veterans and service members within IUP student body. We express our gratitude to those previously mentioned by Captain Dave Sobolski. Thank you, your dedication has not gone unnoticed. I recently read a quote somewhere online. I don't know if someone sent it to me or if I read it somewhere, but it goes like this. It says, there's war in all of us, and sometimes it threatens to destroy us, and sometimes it keeps us alive. I bring this up because the Military Resource Center, in my opinion, is a force to help keep us alive and battle the negatives that are within us. So with that being said, I want to thank Dave for serving as the interim director from this past October when the Senate and President gave us the green light to make the center happen for us. The priorities of work were quickly established, and in 3 months' time, a space was completed. It has provided us the support we need for so much success. Thank you, Dave.
And while there are so many people to thank today, Dr. Rhonda Lucky has been a linchpin in the organization of the center. I asked her to come forward to conclude the program. Please welcome Dr. Rhonda Lucky.
Michael Oquendo, president of our student veteran organization. When our team that planned the ceremony asked me to make the concluding remarks, I knew that I would have a significant challenge. And you have heard inspiring words from our speakers. And my job is to leave you with those words. As I was thinking about what I might say, it is so fascinating to know that my thoughts were thoughts that were expressed by each of these speakers. Their words, our hopes, our dreams for our students, our student veterans, our military-affiliated students at IUP. So I just have a few remarks because I want us to really embrace and reflect upon what we've heard and also have the opportunity to enjoy great refreshment and each other's company. I want to begin by acknowledging those who thought in such a creative way about today's ceremony. And I want to have us all say thank you to those planners, those creative and thoughtful people. Kyle Campbell, Mary Greb, Dave Sobolski, and Regan Hauser. They did a wonderful job. This work begins with our students. And you heard Dave reflect upon Tim Snyder. I first met Tim in 2007. He was an undergraduate studying sociology. I guess it doesn't surprise me that sociology is a common core here. He was a veteran and in the Marines and was in Operation Iraqi Freedom. And when I met him, I immediately understood his commitment and his passion to find ways to improve the experiences of his fellow student veterans. We've heard from each of our speakers about the transition that veterans make. And the transition to college is more complex than for most other students. Making adjustments and transitioning from soldier to civilian, to reestablishing wonderful relationships with family and friends and community, and to understand this university bureaucracy and how to navigate, understand the rules of engagement, if you will, and the rigors of coursework. Tim was our first champion and our first advocate to understand how to improve the transition and the success that this university can provide to our student veterans. And in the intervening years, other students, other student leaders like Michael, like Brad, president, current and past of our veteran student organization, who are members of a 30-member team, the Veterans Outreach Group. Faculty, staff, students, student veterans, graduate students, community members have been the driving force for setting this very firm foundation upon which the Military Resource Center sits. So I would like for us to take a moment to have members of the Veterans Outreach Group, past and current, please stand. Let us recognize your very good work. As I said, we could not be here if it weren't for their passion and their commitment. But the second point I want to make as we dedicate the Military Resource Center is we are privileged to see that this is a piece of IUP's vision coming into focus for our student veterans. What words did we hear? Home, family, support, nurture, grow and develop. This is one way that we can welcome our veterans and military-affiliated students to their college home. This is one way through the Military Resource Center that our staff and our university partners, faculty and staff, can come to know our student veterans and military-affiliated students as individuals to help them grow and develop holistically and to begin to envision their future success. This would not be possible to be able to grasp this piece of the vision if it weren't for the incredible shared commitment that we as a university have to help all our students succeed, and most especially our student veterans. But we will only be successful if we are able to find ways for our student veterans to become actively involved. So, what I would like to do is ask those IUP student veterans and military-affiliated students, please stand now and let us recognize you. Please stand. Please stand. Please stand. You and your peers contribute to the rich diversity of this campus. We need you. We need you to demonstrate to our students your leadership, your service, your mentorship, your standards of excellence in all that you do. We need you because the Military Resource Center will only be successful with you. You may not know now the ways in which IUP will make the world open up and discover great possibilities. But we at IUP, dedicated faculty, staff, and students, we are here to help you bring your future into focus. I have to say, it is our honor to share this IUP life with you. It is our honor. You have preserved our freedom, and you have kept and will keep us safe. So thank you. And thank you all who are here today for the support that you are showing for the Military Resource Center now and for your continued support of our students in the future. Thank you. This is a beginning. It is a journey. And I think we will all take the time to reflect on what this means for us and our community. So thank you so very, very much. And let us take advantage of Aramark's wonderful refreshments, each other's extraordinary friendship and relationship, and tour the facility. Thank you for coming.
Colonel Retired Stephen Abel, thank you for showing up today during our grand opening of our Military Resource Center. The question we'd like to hear an answer to speaks to, now that a center is open, what were some of the successes that you saw as you opened up your centers that could speak to are actions we should be taking or that you would like to see here that really brought the veterans to the center, drew them in, kept them here, and allowed them to see how we're trying to benefit for them, their development and their advancement during their time here at IUP?
Well, veterans are non-traditional students on campus. And so they come to school with a little bit of apprehension about how they will be welcomed and how they will fit into the larger student body, the student population here at IUP and at other schools across the country. What a Veterans Resource Center allows is those veterans who may not be willing to share or question the younger students on campus to share that common experience with other veterans. And what we found at Rutgers, for example, is that transition period is about a semester or maybe 2 semesters long. Our goal is to have our veterans fully integrated into the larger campus community and not just be a subgroup of that community. But it's that first term or two where they're getting comfortable with school, and the support that they get from other veterans is critical to that smooth transition onto campus and ultimately to their academic success at the university.
Phenomenal. And sir, one more. The years that you have been involved in what you've been able to do within the community and speak to the nation for your hard work and recognizing this and supporting universities in accepting this challenge and helping out with veterans. Do you have any success stories, one that you would like to speak to that could be heard as a motivational story for us?
Sure. Well, one, I think that IUP is on track to be a very successful university in terms of taking care of its men and women. And it starts with the top here at the university. I know of a school in Manhattan, a large school, a very popular school in Manhattan, where the Veteran Service Coordinator has no support from the leadership and no support from the faculty and staff of the university. And so he is able to make small inroads. He's able to help individual students. But in terms of having a successful program, he does not have one of those. I've been contacted by some very senior members of the Alumni Association asking me to help. That's not, Rutgers has top-notch leadership support, and it's clear from what we heard today during the ceremony that IUP has that same kind of support. It's that support of the university leadership that will allow this center to thrive. And so our veterans here at IUP will not only be successful here at the university, but in their life beyond the university because of what is being done here at the university.
Sir, thank you again for your time and coming out in our support.
You're welcome.